Mornings are better with a warm beverage, even for Latter-day Saints. Meet Postum, the ideal coffee alternative and proud sponsor of This Week in Mormons podcast. Spotted on the coffee aisle at Smith's Grocery or at your local nearby store. Can't locate it? No worries. Order it at postum.com. Explore delicious recipes to tailor your Postum experience. Start your day off right with Postum. Listeners, welcome to This Week in Mormons. This is the Taffy edition, which stands for Tiffany and Friends for You. This is your host, Tiffany Hales, and I am here tonight with my friend, Kristen Cotter Pancarry. Yay, Kristen! Thank you for joining me tonight. I have been trying to get Kristen onto the show for quite some time. It took a little arm twisting.
A little bit.
But I finally convinced her. So before we do your introduction, I have made Kristen a Postum drink. And so we're going to drink our Postum drink before we do our introduction because it's a freshly made drink and it's cold and it's got a foam creamer on it. So we do want to thank Postum. They are the sponsor of our show. A couple of things about this drink. This is a cold Postum drink and I did this one, yes, for those of you watching on YouTube.
Cute little jars.
It's in the little mason jar. I did this one with Lauren Lemons when I had Lauren on a couple months ago. And this has by far been like my favorite Postum drink. You have never tried Postum before. And so
I even called you and said, where do I get it?
Yes, you did because you wanted to try it beforehand. And I said, let me tell you what I'm going to make for you. And I told you the ingredients that are in it. So the ingredients that are in it, just to refresh everybody's recollection, is it is the cocoa blend Postum, along with a packet of stevia, along with a teaspoon of almond extract.
That's going to be the magic sauce.
Exactly. And then a little bit of crushed ice and the cold foam cream on top. And so when I told you what the ingredients were, you were like, yes, that sounds delicious. So let's cheers and we will drink our Postum beverages.
That's actually better than I anticipated.
Oh, good.
Yes. I was a little nervous. That's why I was like, I need to get this ahead of time so I can. No, that's actually really good.
It is. It's really good.
Yeah.
You're right. I love it.
It's not super sicky sweet.
And that is what I like about it is because the Postum doesn't have, I don't think the Postum has any sugar in it. And then when you do the sugar substitute, that's enough to give it sweetness. And then, of course, the almond flavoring.
So what was the cream you put in?
It's called cold foam cream.
Okay, so it's not like, it wasn't like a whipping cream.
No.
It's just like the cold foam.
Like the cold foam, like what you would get at Starbucks. And I had never heard of it before. And Lauren Lemons was the one who told me about it and brought it to when she recorded with me. I think
of some other uses for that too.
Oh, I know. So I really like this because I, just like what you said, I like it because it's not overly sweet and I do not like overly sweet beverages. I want something to have a hint of sweetness, but I don't want to, after I consume a sip of it, just go, oh, I'm sick to my stomach now because it's sweet. So
good job.
Anyway,
is this a concoction you made yourself?
This is a concoction I made myself. I was trying to figure out what to feed Lauren and I hadn't done it yet. And I came up with this one and I was like, oh, I even like that better than I did one the previous month with Ariane that I had the cake batter flavoring in.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And that one was really good, but I like it better with the almond. So
very good.
Anyway, very glad you like it. We will be sipping on these all throughout the show tonight. So thank you.
As long as I don't knock it over.
As long as you don't put it up there.
Yeah.
And I'll do the same. Okay. Well, oh, look, I love it so much. It's all up and down my sweatshirt now.
You can't even see it.
All right. Well, anytime I have someone on for the first time, well, first of all, let me talk about our relationship. And then I'm going to ask you how it was you came to find This Week in Mormons, because I always ask anybody that I've had on for the first time, how did you hear about the show? So Kristen and I both grew up in Nampa. And I cannot remember a time when I did not know you or your family. So she's about 4 years younger than me, but I remember either my mom taught your mom or your mom and I were visiting, your mom and my mom were visiting teaching partners.
I know they did a lot together.
Because I remember as a little kid going visiting teaching with my mom and having you be there and making up this little rhyme about your name, which I won't repeat on the air.
Oh, you're going to have to tell me that later.
Maybe I'll tell you that off there. I don't want to like completely offend you with my childish rhyme.
You can't offend me.
Anyway, and then our parents have known each other. Our grandparents were good friends. So we are Nampa homies, to say the least.
Yes, we are.
So,
oh,
I was telling Kristen, you got to lean in closer to the microphone.
This is going to be hard for me.
That's okay.
I told her have to redirect.
I will redirect. I'll go, come on. You got to lean in closer. We want good audio. Anyway, so tell us, how did you find TWIM? How did you stumble across TWIM?
I'm guessing it was probably 2015.
Okay.
I was listening to the old school. It was Jeff and Al.
Yes.
And I don't even know how I stumbled onto it. I think it was one of those, hey, what's this app on my phone?
Uh-huh.
And it's a little purple podcast button. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, let's see what I can find. And I found This Week in Mormons. And I actually loved listening to those two banter.
Oh, they were great.
It was fantastic.
Yes.
Banter. And it was really, I just really liked the thought process.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I liked hearing differing perspectives.
Yes.
From that. So, yeah, it was really fun. But then I'm sitting there listening when you guys,
Ariane
first came
So
out.
Ariane and I did our first episode in May of 2017.
Yeah, and you do your introduction. And you're like,
yes.
This is Tiffany Hauser. I'm like, Tiffany? Like the Tiffany? I'm like, I know somebody famous. So you're my claim to fame. You're the most famous person I know, too.
You have a sad life.
I do. I still live in Nampa.
Well, speaking of which, you need to tell our listeners, yes, you still live in Nampa, but you actually have a very cool life in Nampa. So tell our listeners a little bit about what you and your family do.
So, like you said, I grew up in Nampa. And when I graduated from high school, I swore I was never coming back to Nampa. I'm leaving. I'm going to go to the big city. I'm going to do all of these things. Go to BYU.
You were going to be fancy schmancy girl.
I was going to be fancy schmancy girl. Went to BYU, graduated from BYU, and then was like, oh, now what am I going to do? So I come back, take a job at the Nampa Rec Center.
Yes. Weren't you the manager?
Yeah, I was the assistant director.
Assistant director. Okay, yeah.
For a really long time. And that's just kind of where my life led me. And then...
And you were not married at the time?
No. I got out of BYU.
You escaped BYU without an MRS degree.
Absolutely. And then I was back. So let's see. I graduated BYU in 1993 and moved back. And then I didn't meet my husband until 2002.
Okay.
And then we didn't get married until 2004.
Okay.
But can I tell you how we met?
Yes, I know this story, but our listeners don't. And I love the story. And I was hoping you would share it tonight.
Yes.
Because it is such a cool story.
So I was with my family up in Cascade, and it was the hottest summer on record until this summer.
Yeah.
This summer reminded me of that summer. And we had a little summer cabin up there, no air conditioning. It's me, my siblings, their spouses. It's hot. And of course, my dad sells the boat right before we leave to go up to the lake. And I wasn't very happy. I'm a water skier.
Yeah.
So I had my ski and my life jacket, and I packed myself up, and I told my mom, I'm headed to the boat dock. I'm finding someone to pull me on my ski. And
did your mom look at you like, okay, Kristen?
No, she was panicked. But what are you going to tell a 30-year-old?
Exactly.
It's not like she's, I'm like a 30 years old. I can probably decipher an axe murderer from someone else. So I'm sitting on the boat dock for 45 minutes.
Hey, at least you're working on your tan.
Yes, I was. And this boat starts to come up, and it was going to the other dock. And then next thing I know, it comes over to my dock and pulled up, and they're like, hey, is a guy and his, some younger kids.
Uh-huh.
Hey, can we help you? I'm like, I got $7. I'm looking for someone to give me a tow. They're like, come on, let's see what you got. So I hop in the boat and takes me for a spin.
Did didn't give you creeper vibes? He was like,
no, because he had his young nephews with him.
Oh, okay.
So it was,
okay.
Here's this guy, late 20s or whatever, with his young nephews.
So okay.
Like, how
so it wasn't giving you creeper vibes.
No. But he was just like, really? You're offering me something? He goes, well, I won't take the $7, but let's just see what you got. So he took me out. We skied a little bit. And come to find out, our families, we knew each other's families.
Okay. You two had never met, but your parents knew each other.
Our parents knew each other. So.
Well, everybody in Nampa knows everybody. We're kind of inbreds.
Well, a little bit. So the rest, as they say, is history.
Oh, so, that's so awesome. I know. I absolutely love that story.
Yeah. So. We actually went back and took our wedding pictures on that.
Yeah. Well, and he is a farmer.
Yes, because I was going to leave and be fancy schmancy in a big city. And so
Now
I
you're
come
a
back and I
farmer's
marry
wife.
a farmer. In fact, I can remember saying to the Lord, okay, wait, he's a farmer. Like, can I do this? Like, can I really do this? And he's like, yes, you can.
Well, and one of the things that I love is, I mean, you guys have a significant diversified farming operation.
Yes.
Because I see your trucks tooling around. And one of the things that I love that your trucks say is, it has the name of your farm, and then it says Nate and Kristen Pancarry. It doesn't say Nate Pancarry Farms. It is Nate and Kristen. And that is one of the things that I love about when I'm spending time with you, and especially when you're around your husband. You guys have this true kind of joint partnership where, you each are doing very different things, but you're equally contributing to how this farm runs.
Yeah. And it's not always easy.
No.
I tell people, working with your spouse is not for the faint of heart. It is not the easiest thing in the world, but it is so amazing and so fun to work together so hard on something and then have it work.
Yes.
And then when things aren't working, you still have each other.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you're in it together.
Well, and I was thinking about this week. So I have talked about this previously on the podcast, and Ariane and I did a big Patreon thing on it last time we recorded. Ballerina Farm. There was an article that came out about her, and there's been a ton of backlash as to whether or not she gave up her hopes and dreams to go run this farm with her husband. And this is just a story that won't die. When I hopped on the Salt Lake Tribune this week, there was yet another opinion piece on Ballerina Farms. And this story came out a month ago. And the girl from Ballerina Farms, Hannah Nealman, came out and made a public statement about 2 weeks after the story was released and said, my husband and I are co-CEOs. We do everything together. This is not just his dream. It's our dream. And I thought, I want to get Kristen's perspective on this, because you had choices. And I legit believe she had choices too. She was at Juilliard. She was a Juilliard ballerina. She could have said, no, I don't want to go live your little farming dream. I want to do what I'm doing. And you had that choice too.
Oh, yeah. And I will say it wasn't necessarily, it was just a different lifestyle for me. I mean, I always joke about the fact that before we got married, I would pay extra on my credit card, so I had a credit. It was kind of the girl math thing. So I already paid a little extra. And then I get with Nate, and I'm like, wait, we borrow how much from the bank, and then we pray that we can pay it back? Like, for real? Like, this is like real life? So there was definitely a huge learning curve for me. I didn't even know there was a difference between people corn and cow corn.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, no, that's how city girl I was. He laughs that he didn't think it would ever work out for me, because I would go out and ride with him in the tractor in my white pants and my black leather jacket, trying to lock my car in the middle of the field, because someone was going to come and steal me
in the middle of the field.
But he goes, I knew the minute that you turn around and sat in the dirt in your white pants that we maybe had a chance.
Oh gosh.
but it really is. And it comes down to, necessarily some of the farm heavy labor stuff. That's not my gig.
Yeah.
But if you want to build a life together, you figure out those things together. Yeah. And it's like, this is in my husband's blood. And now I can't think of any other way I would want to raise my kids. Yeah. The mere fact that my kids have a farm to go work on is worth everything.
Really? Mm-hmm. So how is having that farm impacted you in terms of raising your kids? What have you seen?
Well, your kids don't say I'm bored, because if they say they're bored, there's lots of stuff to do.
There's always something to do on the farm.
And I mean, the way our farm's set up, my kids are very actively engaged during the summer season. We always laugh that they're excited to go back to school because they get to sleep in. So there's that during sweet corn harvest.
Yeah. I know. It's long hours.
Long hours. It's hot. It's not glamorous. Yeah. But it's good. But our kids have learned so much. Yeah. They've learned how to manage other people. My 19-year-old daughter, she manages our entire packing shed, and she's been managing it since she was 15 or 16.
Wow.
So some kids are more inclined to farm work than others are.
Well, and I think that's true of any kid you have. I have kids that are way better about doing stuff around the house than other children. And that just kind of comes with the territory. But I
also think kids see how hard you have to work for certain things in that aspect when they are part of the process.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, we worked really hard and that wasn't a great harvest. So yeah, we did all that work and like, it's not very profitable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're going to do it again next year too.
Exactly.
And we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I, for me, after I read this piece in the Salt Lake Tribune today, because I have always felt like in reading Hannah Nealman's story, I never took away the vibe that she's doing this because that's what was expected of her, because of this, because of that. I legit believe her when she said, I had a choice. I made a choice. This is my choice. This is what I want to do. And had she made a different choice, I think we honor whatever her choice is, because that is the choice that is right for her. That may not be, I can't imagine myself as a farm girl doing what she does, but she probably can't imagine herself in a courtroom being a lawyer.
Right.
And so just as I would want people to honor my choice, I would hope that people would honor her choice as well.
I would agree with that. And I don't follow her very much. Although some of the pictures I'm like, it is really kind of a Pinteresty type farm situation.
It is a very Pinteresty.
We are definitely more here's the cow manure, here's the dirt, here's the, stuff.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's do some stories since I brought you on tonight to do some stories. Our first one that we have is there were a bunch of handbook changes that came out this week. We actually, I think that they don't like to use the term changes anymore. They like to call them updates or adjustments. Adjustments. These are adjustments to the policies or updates to the policies, not changes, adjustments. So there were kind of some there were some that ratified things that we had already known, like the age range for young single adults now, the fact that the young women can function as greeters.
Which my daughter has been doing that for a little bit, and I think it's great.
I think it's fantastic too.
I love it, and I love seeing the young women take a more active role in that aspect.
Have you had pushback from your daughter at all about doing that?
So my one daughter, it's my middle daughter, and she's super outgoing. That's just right up her wheelhouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's happy to greet everybody as they come in.
She would have been greeting everybody anyway, but it's more in an official capacity.
Okay. So that was codified in the handbook. The other thing too, that I don't know if it was maybe about a year ago, these Relief Society councils came out, and I didn't realize that apparently there's supposed to be elders quorum councils as well. And one of the changes in the handbook that we talked about tonight that you pointed out that I hadn't seen was that occasionally Relief Society and elders quorum could get together and counsel together.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I thought it was very interesting,
Isn't that what we
too.
do Fifth Sunday?
That's kind of what I thought. I was like, but
it's not.
Yeah.
No, there's a specific.
Yeah. And I suppose if you had, I know when I was in the Relief Society presidency, we would try and pick a topic if we could once a month to counsel on. Not the fifth.
To counsel on.
Counsel on for like 10 minutes in Relief Society. And the nice thing about it was it got the sisters talking. So it was a great warm up for the teacher. And so I suppose if you had the elders quorum together with the Relief Society, it might be a topic that, maybe a parenting topic, something that would jointly impact them. Because I know a lot of the topics that we counseled on together as Relief Society sisters were topics that were unique to needs that the Relief Society sisters had. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it will be interesting to see if wards take the opportunity to combine their Relief Society and priesthood for the first 10 minutes and do some counseling.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Okay. And then there were more controversial changes.
Yes, there were.
So let's just talk about the most controversial changes of all, or excuse me for saying changes. Adjustments, the most controversial adjustments. There was a lot of clarification regarding how to handle transgendered members. I don't think that there was a lot in the handbook before. And I think in the handbook before, it really focused on somebody who had medically transitioned. And they have now changed that now to medically, hormonally, or socially. And that, I think, is the biggest aspect, because I think it's far more common to see individuals who may have transitioned socially before they take those other steps. And it's a hot button issue, and it's a sticky wicket. There is a lot of backlash this week. Let's just talk about what some of the changes are and how they clarified.
Okay, I'm going to actually pull up mine here.
So pull up yours there, because the article that we linked didn't have a ton of them in there. I do know that it did say, like, for youth, if there was a youth that was going to an overnight camp out, they were not allowed to stay overnight. They would have to leave. They needed to go to the class based on their biological sex at birth, regardless of whether or not they were, where they were in their transition process. That they should, as far as using bathrooms at the church, if there was a bathroom that was a gender neutral bathroom,
I think most of the buildings have those.
My building doesn't have one. Does your building have a gender neutral bathroom?
We just have one it's not gender neutral, but it's just a single toilet in a room.
Oh, no, we don't have that at all in my building.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And our building's old.
My building's old too.
Yeah, no, we do.
Oh,
we have one that's just right off of one of the foyers.
Yeah, so they can use that bathroom, no problem. If they're going to go into a gender specified bathroom, they should have somebody there to just, and I don't think it said which gender specified bathroom they necessarily had to go in. They just had to have kind of an escort just to say, okay, somebody's in here, for anybody that might be uncomfortable.
Yeah, which is awkward.
The whole thing is awkward. That's.
And I have to say, before we really delve, the bottom line is with anything, being kind is
you will never go
wrong being kind, regardless of what the situation or circumstances.
Yeah.
Now, there's certain guidelines and things like that need to be met, certain policies that need to be adhered to, but we're never wrong being kind.
Exactly. And I think that, while you're pulling that up, I'm just going to comment on a couple of just kind of experiences that I've had. I think that we are seeing more of these transgendered issues, obviously, than we have ever seen in the past. I know in my ward, we have dealt with 3 different situations. One was, and they've all been teenagers. Nobody's been an adult. One was and I'm not going to reveal sex or anything. I'm just going to call him a child. One was a child, and her parents had actually had a faith reevaluation. Let's put it that way. They had reevaluated their faith several years ago before she began transitioning. I don't know where her feelings were at the time that her family kind of went through a faith reevaluation. And so, they elected not to participate in our ward. They're still on our ward rolls, but there's minimal contact. Then we had another child that, again, was a teenager that started making a social transition and elected to move out of state to go live with another relative. I presume more of a fresh start. Nobody knew, the past sort of a thing. And then we had a third child, and they moved into our ward from another place, and they had a negative experience somewhere else. And so they elected to not participate in our ward at all. And again, their choice. And we said, great, we will honor that. If you need us, here's our telephone number. We're not going to bother you unless you ask.
We're here for you.
We're here for you for whatever you need. But if right now this is something that is a sensitive issue for you, then we'll just leave you alone. But then I also had a friend, and in her ward, there was an adult that had transitioned male to female and would come to sacrament meeting and then was coming to Relief Society. And it was interesting because the thing that made the sisters more uncomfortable than anything else was how this individual dressed. This individual was dressing in very tight, short, revealing clothing, almost bordering on drag queen type of stuff. And that, in speaking with my friend, was more distressing than the fact that this individual was sitting in Relief Society. And I'm like, she felt like they were more there trying to make an I'm in your face statement than to legitimately be there to worship, because this is not a situation where this is a person who'd grown up in the church. This is not a situation where they were new to the church, didn't.
They understood the social aspect.
Exactly. And, whether it's church, whether it's work, whether it's any activity, every activity has a dress code. And I'm not saying, fortunately we've gotten away from, how short is your hem, all that sort of a thing. But many activities have a certain expectation of a dress code that is appropriate for that activity.
Well, and I think you make a good point. If you feel like it's being like thrown out there for the shock factor, I think that's hard.
Exactly.
Because then you're like, okay, is this person trying to get a reaction?
Yeah.
Like as a mom, I know when my kids are trying to get a reaction, so I can either give it to them or I can just sit back and not give them a reaction.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly, what happened, I think it was only maybe 2 or 3 times this individual came to church. And after that, they have not seen that individual since then. And I don't think that there was that shocked reaction. I know from speaking with this friend of mine that, the people in the ward were all talking amongst themselves, but they weren't saying things directly. They were
uncomfortable.
They were uncomfortable, and they were talking about their discomfort, but they weren't being rude or shunning or anything like that to this individual. Just like what you said, you can't go wrong with kindness.
No. Okay, the problem with these changes is they jump all over the place.
Yes.
They're in a bunch of different sections.
I should have pulled a better article that had them listed better.
Yeah, I'm going through this one here. Let me go back to the 3216. Sorry, I didn't do a very good job of doing that, and I'm trying to read off my phone, and I don't have good eyes for my phone anymore.
Well, here, you want to borrow the glasses? I can give you the glasses.
I don't even know if that will help me.
Oh, gosh.
I have contacts in.
Oh.
I have bifocal contacts because, I'm that age that requires bifocal contacts.
Let's see. I'll pull them up on my phone.
3286 and 32. I know I have to laugh. About a year ago, my husband started sending me all of these emails. I'm like, why are you sending me all your work emails? He goes, I can't read them on my phone. I'm sending them to you so you can read them to me.
Well, and the other thing too, I will just talk about, if you find something great, we'll pull it to talk about it. But I'll also talk about the other update, which was to the sealing policies. They've made a few changes to the sealing policy. One really notable change to the sealing policy was if you lived with a partner, you were not legally married, but
cohabitated.
you cohabitated. You didn't even necessarily have to have children. You just had to have cohabitated.
But you had to have been in a committed long-term
relationship. Exactly.
That you kept your commitments.
Exactly. And that person passed away, you can now be sealed to that person, even if you were never married to that person. And you and I were talking about this a little bit before the show, and I am suspecting one of the reasons is not so much for situations here in the United States.
I'm glad you pointed that out because that does make a lot of sense.
I think that in a lot of countries, there are situations where couples live together and marriage isn't as pushed. And missionaries, when they start converting people, are like, you have to get married. And sometimes there's legal things and cultural things with getting married. And so they end up in these long-term relationships. And quite often they have families and children together, but they were never legally married. So then you got all these children hanging out there that can't be sealed to parents, etc.
It'll make genealogy a lot easier.
It will make genealogy a lot easier. And the other update was that they put in there under sealings that I really liked, because I think they've said this all along, but it hasn't been in the handbook, which is, do not worry if you are sealed here on earth to someone that you dislike, because the Lord is not going to make you spend eternity with anybody that you don't want to spend eternity with. So put that on a shelf and quit worrying about it.
And there are a lot of things I think you just have to say, you know what, here's this item. I'm putting it up here.
Yeah.
The Lord will work that out. And I have to have faith that the Lord will work that stuff out. But I am glad they made that clarification, because I've heard that from several people. That like, you know, there's always that fear too of like, but that sealing and my children and all of those. But I think even in there, and I don't necessarily think it's an update, but it's like, you know what? In that sealing, all those that live worthy of that sealing are still blessed with all of those promises.
Exactly. Yep. So anyway, lots of interesting updates there.
Yes.
And at least, I mean, here's kind of our last thought on the transgendered issue. There wasn't a lot of guidance beforehand, and so bishops were all over the place. Yes. And so this, at least, as we were discussing earlier, gives a bishop some guidance.
Yeah, it gives some kind of lines to stay between. And I think I was telling you this earlier, that my husband is been a bishop for about a year now. And I was really surprised that there's not a lot of formal training anymore. Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up, my dad had bishopric training every Thursday night and all of these stake meetings that he would go to and receive some of that information. And my husband was like, they really don't have a lot of that anymore. He goes, which is good to a certain extent, because it really puts the bishop in a situation where they have to go seek personal revelation and guidance for how to deal with certain. But I do think with this particular issue, it does help to give a little bit more scaffolding to operate.
Exactly. And it's a hard issue, because one of the tenets of our religion is that gender is eternal. And you were that gender before, and you will be that gender after. And that tenet of our religion in today's society doesn't jive in all situations. And the church can't be expected to bend over and go, well, because you all don't like it, we're not going to follow that anymore. They have to follow what the Lord has told them to do. Mm-hmm. So anyway, all right, let's move on to the churches. Oh, it's been a busy week for the church. They also issued
another statement.
A statement on media.
They issued another statement. So this was one with regards to coming out with the new Hulu. Tell me the name of that again. There's Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
This is a new docu-series that's going to be on Hulu. I'm suspecting there's probably 7 or 8 episodes. It comes out on September 6th, I believe.
You're keeping track. I don't think it's something I'm going to do
personally.
You have to do it for research purposes.
I have to do it for research purposes. I will probably, I suspect maybe one episode is going to be about my level of tolerance. What's interesting is I've seen several of the previews. And after I saw the first preview, I called Ariane and I said, this is going to make those Salt Lake Housewives look like they're the most well-behaved people you've ever seen in your life.
And I have a hard time with the Housewives.
Yes. So, I could only tolerate one season of the Housewives before I quit watching them, till I came back last season because Ariane said, it's so good, you have to get back into it.
That's right, because Ariane's the driving force with the Housewives.
Yes.
Right?
And so I did watch the 4th season of the Housewives, and she was right. It was excellent. Housewives does premiere on the 18th of September. So these two shows are hitting kind of back to back. Okay. And I am going to watch Housewives. They've got a new housewife on there, someone that I have previously been following on Instagram named Bronwyn. And I really like her. In fact, I was kind of surprised she agreed to do the show. I'm like, girlfriend, you're way too nice for the show. So I don't know how this is going to play out. So I'm going to have to watch Bronwyn and see how she does.
You can keep me updated.
And I'll just give updates on Twim, and then you all can feel informed.
I have my own guilty pleasures, and those are not good,
Okay.
Give me a crime podcast. So with regards to the statement that the church put out, and can we just read just a little bit of it?
Yes, please do.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like other prominent global faith communities, often finds itself the focus of the attention of the entertainment industry. Some portrayals are fair and accurate, but others resort to stereotypes or gross misrepresentations that are in poor taste and have real life consequences for people of faith. And I like that comment that there are real life consequences for people of faith. While this is not new, a number of the recent productions depict lifestyles and practices blatantly inconsistent with the teachings of the church. Others irresponsibly mischaracterize the safety and conduct of our volunteer missionaries, which I think this is in reference to that horror film.
Yes, there's a movie.
Suspense or whatever.
It's called Heretic. It's coming out on my birthday, November 15th. I have seen the previews for Heretic. I have no desire to watch Heretic.
Well, I was listening to another podcast, and the two lead actresses are returned sister missionaries.
Get out of town.
I just heard that. I just heard that on another podcast.
Really?
So that makes that very interesting. Well, I don't know if they are still affiliated with church. I just know that they had.
That makes sense because the dialogue that they were engaging in that I saw in the trailer was so spot on that I was just like, how did some Hollywood writer pick up every nuance of Mormon dialogue?
Can you imagine that advertisement for that job where it's like, hey, looking for and
okay, well, I still don't. What podcast did you listen to that they were on?
I think it was on the Cultural Hall. They were talking about it.
Oh, okay. It was Richie's podcast.
I think so.
Anyway, I still at this point in time have no desire to see that movie.
No, as a mom who will start sending out a missionary next year, I have no interest.
But I definitely will read the reviews when it comes out, and I'll probably talk about the reviews on the podcast. Yeah. Okay,
but I think the church was in a difficult situation with these coming out because it's like it is such a diversion from our actual faith and our practices and our lifestyles.
I mean, most of us are pretty boring.
Yeah. 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 I can't even. Yeah. Some of the content that I even have seen on, I mean, I don't do TikTok or Instagram or whatever. I'm just like, was this really happening in Utah? Well, then I think, it was happening in Utah.
Well, it is Utah.
And you lived there, I didn't.
That's very true. I lived there not only for school, but for a stint after school. So,
but I loved this last comment. It said, the true story of our faith is best seen in the countless lives of those who strive daily to follow our Savior, Jesus Christ.
I love that.
So if you want to really know about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you look to the people that are actively living that.
Exactly. And hopefully as a member, you are actively living in that way, that you are portraying what our faith is, as opposed to what some in the media think our faith is.
And that doesn't mean living it perfectly.
No.
That means living it, stumbling, picking yourself up, and coming back.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that. And like I said, even for people that are engaged in some of those crazy things, there's a way back.
There is a way back. All right. So our next story. Oh, this is kind of a sad one. We had another missionary that died. This is the 7th missionary this year that has died. It just seems like we've had a lot this year. He was Elder Ilawinga. He was 25. He died in a traffic accident in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He actually was from the Democratic Republic of Congo, so he was a native missionary. His companion sustained some minor injuries, but our prayers go out to his family. It's always sad. Okay. All right. You and I are in kind of a post-Olympic blues.
We are, but the Paralympics is starting.
Paralympics?
Do you watch the Paralympics?
I don't really watch the Paralympics.
Do yourself a favor.
And watch them.
Find just a couple of things that you want to watch.
Okay.
It is fantastic.
Okay.
In fact, my family and I, we're pumped for the Paralympics.
Okay. Well, I've got the Peacock, and the Paralympics is on the Peacock, so I have no excuse.
No excuse
to not watch. Well, I'll do that because there's really only stupid TV on right now.
Oh, yeah.
And so
it's always such a letdown.
Yeah.
And people can have whatever conversations they want about the Olympics, but I love sports. I am the most unathletic person you've ever met.
Oh, I don't know. I might tie you for that prize. We might have an unathletic competition.
Should we go run a little race and see? I would just sit down.
But I would probably go, oh, that's a really good idea. I think I'll do that too.
I love watching these people put everything,
put
their whole heart and soul
Absolutely.
into what they're doing. And with the Paralympics, it just takes it to a whole nother level.
Okay.
So definitely.
Oh, you have inspired me. I'm going to go watch some Paralympics. But before we get to the Paralympics, we have a cool story about a donation that the church made. And then I have to follow up about the runners.
So how cool was it that the surfing competition was in Tahiti?
Exactly.
In fact, it was really fun for my daughter. She was on a humanitarian trip in Tahiti a year and a half ago.
Okay, so she recognized a lot of the venues and locations.
Just loved those people. But it was interesting because if you noticed at the surfing competition, there was an ambulance that was stationed there. And it is an ambulance that had been purchased with funds that the church had provided to the Federation, the Polynesian Civil Protection Federation. And it wasn't that they had purchased it for the Olympics or made it available for the Olympics. They had purchased it for this organization that was providing services
because
for the island.
I think they said last year their ambulance quit working.
Yep. And so they had to really scale back their ability to provide those services. And so they used it there for the Olympics. So.
Which is really cool. So they used it for the Olympics. It is staying in French Polynesia, and the church has, they've actually been working with the Polynesian Civil Protection Federation prior to donating the money for this ambulance. They had helped them with some training and some other equipment and things like that. So they had an ongoing relationship, and this was just an extension of an ongoing relationship that is going to benefit those people there.
Well, did you read the very last part of this? This is what was entertaining. With the church's donation for the ambulance, he expressed his appreciation and explained the Federation had launched a pilot project to train people not only in first aid, but also in woodcutting, the lumberjack trade. So I'm like, that was an interesting.
Okay.
I wouldn't have considered but I guess that injuries with lumberjacking, right?
Yeah, very true.
I would have to have an ambulance on standby if I were operating a chainsaw or an axe.
Yeah, I stay away from any sort of power equipment such as that. So, okay, so speaking of the Olympics, last time I podcasted with Ariane, we were literally like hours away from the marathon because the marathon was starting at midnight our time. I have to admit, I did come home and I pulled out my iPad in bed and I watched the marathon until I fell asleep, even though it was like a 2-hour marathon, because I just love Connor Mans and Clayton Young. Anyway, and so they ended up finishing 8th and 9th, which was phenomenal, fantastic. Also, if you haven't had a chance, I'm going to make a plug for this. If you go to BYU Sports TV, there is a little mini documentary, like 10-minute documentary that BYU Sports TV did on the relationship between Connor Mans and Clayton Young and how they became training partners and how they trained together. It is so cool. So I highly recommend that. Have you seen that?
I have not seen it.
Go get on BYU Sports and watch that. But there was a whole article that came out that was kind of behind the scenes of how Ed Eyestone trained them and how they ran this race. As we had previously talked about in the past, this was a very daunting Olympic course.
Didn't they say that it was one of the most difficult? It was the most hellish marathon in Olympic history.
Exactly. And Ed Eyestone had thought, it would take about 2:09 to medal. Oh, they were so wrong. The guy that medaled actually ran it in 2:06, I believe.
Yes.
Anyway, and so not only was it the most hellish marathon course, it was run faster than any marathon course had previously been run. And so Ed Eyestone took his athletes out, in preparation beforehand. And the way that he broke this course down is he said, jive, survive, drive. He wanted them in the beginning to jive and get last in the pack and just be cool until they hit the first hill at 15K. And then he wanted them to just survive the hilly part of the course. And then he wanted them to drive for the last 10K. And that is exactly what they did. And there are a really cool couple of things that Connor and Clayton both did. First of all, Connor led Clayton the whole entire time. But Clayton Young was right on his heels, right behind him. So when they got to their first watering station, there was a little bit of distance between them, and Connor missed his bottle. And he didn't get his water bottle at the first watering station. And they handed Clayton Young Connor Mans's water bottle. And Clayton Young was like, I don't know if he got his water bottle or not. So he went up to Connor and he caught up with him. He said, dude, here's your water. And he's like, oh, I missed it. And so he drank half of it and he gave it back to Clayton Young to drink the other half of it. Mm-hmm. So they shared their water during the race. Then again, they were separated for a period of time. And then Connor Mance hears somebody on his tail and he's kind of annoyed that somebody's coming up on him. And he turns around and he sees it's Clayton. He's like, oh, it's just Clayton. So he gives him a behind his back high five, which I thought was so cool. So then Connor gets to the finish line and he waits for Clayton. And when Clayton comes, he does, the hands up like a field goal and congratulates Clayton. They have a moment together. And then they sat there at the end and they congratulated every single runner after them who passed.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's what the Olympics is about.
Say that louder.
That's what the Olympics should be about.
That is exactly
every single. The reason I say this, my sister ran the Boston Marathon a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And my husband and I love sporting events. And we have to say that was the coolest sporting event we've ever been to because everybody is rooting for everyone to finish.
Oh.
And you do. You just, and you're cheering everyone on.
Yeah.
It was special to watch that.
And that's exactly what Connor and Clayton said when they were asked, why did you do that? They're like, you go out there and you run this hard course. You bond with those people just by being on this hellishly hard Olympic course. So I thought their sportsmanship was outstanding. I
expected nothing less.
Exactly. Their discipleship of Jesus Christ was ultimately outstanding. And that goes back to the statement that the church said about the media, which is, look at how we live our lives and those who strive to follow our Savior, Jesus Christ. Look at Connor and Clayton and look at their portrayal of what it means to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So
100%.
I know you all are probably sick of me talking about the Olympics. Guess what? You got 2 years until it's the Winter Olympics, but we don't usually put a lot of members in the Winter Olympics. We have a few here and there, but
no one is coming to Salt Lake.
That's very true. But in 4 years, when we're in Los Angeles, and we will expect to see probably Connor and Clayton and the steeplechasers back, I will be completely on the Olympic bandwagon. Okay.
And we'll be able to watch it in real time.
Exactly, which I love. Okay, let's move on to our next story.
Okay, the next one is a really cool story that you sent me. I had not seen this story, and it is about the church contributing to a program in Ghana for women farmers. So,
which is why I sent you this story. I was like, this is right up your alley.
No, I have to clarify. I have no ability to grow anything. I handle the behind the scenes and the technical aspects. My husband's in charge of growing the stuff. But this particular program.
But you need to brag about your daughter.
Oh, okay. My daughter's pretty awesome. Actually.
Since we're talking about chick farmers.
Yes. So my oldest daughter is 19 and she is my farm girl.
Yeah.
And she wasn't always the farm girl.
Okay.
All of a sudden she decided to kind of come into her own with regards to the farming. And her dad and I were talking about long-term, like, what are we going to do with the farm when we decide not to do it anymore? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm taking over the farm. And we were like, really? And this girl, I'll put her up against any boy.
Wow.
She can hay, she can go out and work the ground. She is something else.
Well, and that directly ties into our story.
Yes. So the church contributed to an organization called IDE to increase self-reliance for women farmers in Ghana. And basically with the funds that they contributed, they were teaching these female farmers. And we were talking about this. I'm like, well, do you think the guys feel left out? Well, no, they specifically target the women because they have better results with the women.
They want the most bang for their buck.
Yes, they want the most bang for their buck. And so with these funds, they began a mentoring program with this organization in Ghana to help these women increase their production and their yields.
Yes. It was called International Development Enterprises.
And I'm looking at it saying IDE and I didn't write
down. I circled it. So that's why
there you go.
Okay. So tell them about what IDE does.
So they provide training. They bring women in and they say, hey, these are some of the irrigation practices. These are ways that you can increase your yields. They give an example of a lady, and I am going to butcher the name, Shea Afiliua, possibly.
Not bad.
I gave it a good shot.
You gave it a good shot. I agree.
And her and her husband live a couple of hours away from any supplies that they can use. So they've had to make a bargain with an individual. And so for every acre of ground they farm, they have to give 1 bag of soybeans to the supplier.
Yes.
Now, we think of the United States and you're like, well, you're going to have a whole bunch of bags. Well, no, this farming is very rudimentary.
Yes.
There. She might sometimes be lucky to get 2 bags. So she's giving 50% of her crop away. So with this training that they are providing, they teach them all of the different practices. Yeah. And she, I love this. I actually looked up an article from the IDE. It said not only did she outperform her husband with soybean yields, she also became the most successful participant in her group.
Love it.
But the part I really loved, she says other people in the community now come to her asking her for her support and having her teach those same principles. And this is how they're then provided for their families. And the General Relief Society presidency has really spearheaded this effort over there. They're aiming to help 1,000 individuals catalyze agricultural activities and strengthen their resilience to disasters and unexpected hardships. But they're replicating what they're doing.
Exactly.
And as they replicate that, it just increases the standard of living over there.
That is exactly right.
You read the article too. I mean, she was so excited. She said she was finally able to buy her own plot of land for her farming and bought a refrigerator to hold food for themselves.
Exactly. And one of the reasons that they found that the women were more successful because they say women-led businesses also tend to employ more women, which helps create jobs for a broader swath of women, and that women make higher investments in long-term health, education, and well-being outcomes for children. And so not only are these women blessing their own lives, they are using that to bless other women and to bless children, which then blesses the next generation. And that is specifically what the Relief Society president, Camille Johnson, said. She said, when you bless a woman, you bless a family, a community, a nation. When you bless a child, you invest in the future. And I just so appreciate that is an initiative that Sister Johnson feels so passionate about and has been looking for worldwide opportunities where she can implement that initiative. And I just think it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just thought it's not a huge investment. Yeah. It's only $225,000, but the impact it's having is huge.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the whole teach a man to fish.
Yeah. Well, it's like, do you remember at Christmas time when I was talking about the impact of the chickens with the giving machines and how the chickens just multiplied and created all of this wealth, and they taught other women how to do the chickens, and it's absolutely the exact same self-reliance principle. And again, it goes back to the media statement that the church issued. Look and see what we are doing. Don't necessarily look at the TV shows, but look what we are doing to improve.
Or Instagram.
Or Instagram,
or
exactly.
Facebook.
And, as far as I know, none of these women are members of the church. They're not doing this for members of the church. They are doing this for humanity and to help areas of the world where families struggle.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Speaking of, I don't want to necessarily say struggle, but this is amazing. So this woman, her name is
Hats
off to her. Her name is Helen Holland. She is 101 years old. So she's giving President Nelson a run for his money in terms of age. She graduated from BYU, Idaho with an associate's degree.
Isn't that amazing?
It is so amazing.
I just think it's so cool that at that age, she's like, I want to go back and do this.
I know. She had done some time.
I want to take a nap. That's where I'm at right now, is I want to take a nap.
You're not even 101.
No, and I want to take a nap.
So she had done some schooling at BYU. 83 years ago. But she never got her degree. And so she wanted to return to finish. And so she reached out to BYU and they transferred a bunch of her credits from Provo up to BYU, Idaho. The administrators worked with her at BYU, Idaho. This is what's most impressive. So she took 5 classes in winter semester and 2 classes in the spring.
And one of them was German.
Exactly.
One of them was German.
5 classes. That's a full-time class load. Mm-hmm. I'm hats off. Mad props, Helen.
Absolutely.
Mad props, Sister Helen Holland.
What an awesome example to her grandkids.
Yes.
and her kids and her great-grandkids.
Exactly.
And possibly her great-great-grandkids.
I'm sure she at least has 2 greats, maybe even 3 greats by now. We don't know.
Yeah, no, it was, I love the fact she said, I don't want to lose that feeling of learning and growing. Yeah. We're never done.
Yeah, nope, we're never done. So anyway, it did say that she was the first student in graduation to walk across the stage. She did have to stand up from her wheelchair. Yes. But she got a standing ovation.
Absolutely.
So,
and well deserved.
Well deserved. All right. I like this next one. I call it
this one.
We Play Well with Others.
Yes, I loved this one. In fact, I think I sent it to you. Did I send this one to you or did you send it to me?
No, you sent it to me, but I had already posted it on the Facebook.
Oh, maybe that's where I saw it. Wouldn't that be hilarious? You posted it. I'm like, oh, hey, we've got to talk about this. Oh, so they already posted it. No, so it's back in Colebrook, New Hampshire. And the Trinity United Methodist Church, at the very beginning, they post a sign that says, at the Trinity United Methodist Church, says one sign noting that Sunday worship begins at 10:30 a.m. Across a paved walkway, a smaller sign announces that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints services start at 1. And it's a story about these 2 congregations that share the building that had been the Trinity United Methodist Church for years and years and years. The branch, is it a branch or was it a ward?
No, it's a branch because they only have 40 people in it. They got 40 members, and the Methodists have about 20 people who regularly attend their service.
And it said that the age range for the Methodist congregation, there was no one younger than 50, and the majority of them were in their 80s. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they ended up renting a portion of that because people, I think they said they have to travel
an hour
to the closest
church
building. And they were just looking for something closer for that. And they approached the Methodists because they were really struggling. I mean, that's a very small congregation to maintain and upkeep a building. And it's a beautiful building. Well, I loved the pictures of
and
this
they
building.
Said just in the winter alone, $8,000 to keep the building in the winter.
To heat it.
And if you've only got
some insulation.
If you've only got a congregation of 20, that's going to be pretty hard.
Uh-huh. And so there were just a couple of notations. It talked about the dwindling congregations in the Methodist Church. Said early on it was thriving, but as people started moving away from this small community, that obviously changed significantly for them. Oh, goodness. I didn't do a very good job of. But I loved this section. So when they're talking about facilitating the lease with the Methodist Church, the trustee chair, when the LDS Church approached them looking for a place to meet, she signed the contract to lease the building, and not everybody was super happy about it.
She got a lot of pushback about that.
Yes. Yeah, it says some people did not like it when I signed the contract with them, that she had known Latter-day Saints for years. Some were her neighbors. I said, I don't think there's a problem. They're looking for a space. They aren't trying to convert us.
I liked that.
And then her husband said, and I loved what he said he shared her thinking, quote, these people are our neighbors. They are people we know. Goes back to that same article that we read at the very beginning. Yep. It's know people. Yeah. Know the church by the people that are actively living.
On a day-to-day basis, not putting it out there on the TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not allowed on the TikTok. But it just talked to them the warming that happened over the years. And as they would help serve the missionaries would help serve meals at the church for the community.
They ended up doing a lot of cross-pollination between the congregations. Yeah. It didn't happen at first. It took a while. And it said one of the members of the church said, they took us for what we were and lived with us. Now they like us.
I know. I love that. I love that quote. And then they talked about the future for the branch, for the LDS branch. Because, in the future, where are they going to go? Their youth group is very small, and obviously they're looking for, more for that. But the very end of this article, and I did not know, said Goodrum, who is the trustee, recited the Methodist Church motto to me. Yes. And the Methodist Church motto is open hearts, open minds, open doors. And so she said, if that's what you believe, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
You open your doors.
Exactly.
You open your doors.
And it's interesting because we're seeing a lot of that. We had covered earlier this year the Manhattan Temple building, the church's property on Lincoln Square in Lincoln Center, is under renovation. And so they had to relocate several congregations, and they are sharing a building with another congregation in New York City. And so I think it's just a situation. I love the synergy that it brings, because these churches get an infusion of cash by the church because they're going to pay for using the building, as well they should. They don't expect a freebie. And just like what I just previously mentioned, these congregations get an opportunity to cross-pollinate, to maybe work on things together, to maybe break down stereotypes. You know, if some of these individuals had maybe seen television shows on Netflix and Hulu and had interesting perceptions of members of the church, maybe sharing a building with them and sharing a cleaning assignment, they're like, they're not like what I thought they were.
Well, I don't know. You grew up in Nampa.
I did.
And when we were growing up, I mean, there was a little bit of friction between another
prominent religion in Nampa.
And it was just kind of a little undercurrent.
It was.
But I can say, I think that has changed significantly.
Interesting. And see, you would know. I haven't lived in that community.
Right. And I could trace it back probably about 10 to 12 years ago, working on some food drive stuff.
Really?
And it was particularly benefiting one of their food pantries.
Oh.
And I remember a person that I know showed up with a large donation, and they're like, who is this from? And they're like, well, our ward. They're like, your ward? Yeah, our ward.
Yeah.
And it created some communication. It created some mutual respect. And that particular ward I was in at that time, did a lot of cross-pollinating.
Well, since we're talking about farming tonight.
Because then it's like, okay, then hey, what are the needs? And then if they had a very specific need, they would come and say, can you help us with this?
Yeah.
And it goes back to the comment that we read earlier.
Exactly. I really appreciate that the church is doing a lot more community outreach with other religions. Just like what you said, we did not see that growing up. No. Everybody lived in their own little insulary camps, and you really didn't commingle. But I see a lot more commingling these days, and I see a lot more initiative by the church to tell the members to go commingle with other faiths in your community.
I think Jess served as a good job of pairing people up.
I do too. Yeah.
It's like, hey, these are some needs. You might go and you will meet people from other congregations that are helping with the same project.
Exactly. And then you can maybe have a conversation and realize
we're not that different.
We're not that different. We all have common goals, which hopefully is to emulate our life like the Savior. 100%. All right. Next one. There is some correspondence. So there was a General Relief Society president during the Great Depression. Her name was Louise Robinson. She was called in 1928, and she served from 1928 to 1939, which was a very difficult period. There was economic downturn. It was the Great Depression. And members of the church struggled during the Great Depression like everybody else did. And she, when she was first called, told President Heber J. Grant, I
love this.
I think you got the wrong person.
How many of us think that when we're called to do something?
Oh, gosh.
I'm pretty sure that was not revelation.
Yeah, you're talking desperation, not revelation. Anyway, so she was a very humble woman. She had a limited education, little money, and a pretty small social status. But she accepted the calling and she fulfilled it. And of course, in the late 20s, early 30s, we did not, I'm sure very few people had access to telephones. And of course, there was no social media, internet, anything. All communication was in writing. And you waited at the mailbox for your letter. So there are lots of letters that went back and forth. And so a lot of those letters have now been digitized, and you can look at them on the church history catalog. And so I hopped on tonight just to see, to see what they had. And I mean, it's fascinating. They have all sorts of digital stuff that you can look at that's on the church history catalog and read, just to kind of, get a feel for what it was like. So I really like that.
How daunting it would have been, though, to have been the General Assembly during the Depression.
I can't even. I can't even.
64,000 members too.
Wow. So, okay. Well, guess what? That finishes it up for our stories. I didn't realize that was our last news story until I flipped over. So now we get to move on to Mormons behaving badly.
Oh, yes. We bond over this.
We do bond over this. So I have not had a new Mormon behaving badly for a little while now. The Mormons have all been behaving themselves.
Except you did see Ammon Bundy took out bankruptcy.
No.
Oh, did you not? Did I not send that to you?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe we should discuss that.
Tell me what you know.
Well, let me pull up.
Let me see if you can pull it. I cannot believe I missed that Ammon Bundy.
I am surprised because he is your Lifetime Achievement Award winner. He is the
Lifetime Achievement Award winner. I haven't checked in on Ammon lately.
Well, he's kind of been missing.
Well, he's been missing, but we know he's hanging out in southern Utah.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll see how. Gone bankrupt.
Declares bankruptcy. Oh, interesting. I mean, I'm not surprised he had that judgment against him. The huge multi-million-dollar judgment against him that St. Luke's got.
Oh, I guess I didn't. I just saw the headlines for it. He actually posted it on YouTube for everyone.
Oh,
with a YouTube video called "Gone Bankrupt."
Oh, okay.
So
I can't believe I missed the Ammon Bundy Gone Bankrupt YouTube video. I'm usually right on top of my Ammon Bundy stuff.
Yeah. Well, he talks about how good he's been with his finances his entire life.
And that big bad St. Luke's went after him? Yeah. The corrupt, evil, wicked St. Luke's?
Yes, that looks like that is the general gist of the YouTube.
Okay, well, that's he's on brand then.
Okay, well, I'm so excited that I told you something you didn't know.
Me too, actually. I'm going to have to
so
go
now
do
we
some
have two
research
more
on that.
Badly.
Well, at least we have two updates on previous members. Because our other one that we have an update on is we have a Chad and Lori Valo Daybell update. So...
Which is actually a good update.
It is a good update. And we should talk about our history as it relates to the Daybell case.
Yes. We said that I have guilty pleasures. My guilty pleasures are true crime.
So when Lori was on trial, we had a goal that we were going to try and go watch the trial together.
Well, you do know I was in Hawaii at the same location that Chad and Lori were. And my mom and my sister saw them walking.
Shut up. You never told me that.
I told you that. I had to have told you this.
Oh, I don't remember you telling me that.
But it was before everything. It was before they found them. Anyway.
Just when Nate Eaton was stalking them.
Yes, in Princeville. They were walking around the golf course. So,
okay, fair enough.
There's my claim to fame.
So you and I were going to go watch Lori Daybell's trial. And you were able to get tickets. I was not quick enough on the draw that day to get tickets. Mm-hmm. And I just had a horrible litigation calendar during that time period. And so we were having a hard time just even finding a day. But you went, and then I went and picked you up at lunch, and we had lunch, and you gave me the lowdown.
We dished the tea.
And then I sent you back to the trial. So
and I text updated you.
Yes, you did. So then when Chad's trial came around, we didn't even try to get tickets. We just decided we were going to get together at your house and watch it because they were live streaming. And again, I don't know what it is about my spring litigation calendar.
It was crazy.
We had a hard time settling on a date.
Yes.
But we settled on a date. I came to your house. It was great fun. Mm-hmm. We sat there, we watched the trial,
had a lot of fun.
We gossiped. You made me an incredible salad, which I still crave. And just this week,
was a good salad.
It was called Sub in a Tub. For any of you who want to know what the salad was. And just this week, I was like, I need to go get the ingredients to make Sub in a Tub again because that was really good. Anyway, so here is the update. As you know, Chad Daybell had a house. That was sadly the house where the kids were buried. And where his wife Tammy passed away, and John Pryor, his attorney, had a lien on this house. And after the trial was over with, the house went on the market, and they were like serious inquiries only.
Oh yeah, they'd be like, yeah, we're not going to have any lawyers.
Exactly. So the house was 3.4 acres of land, and it has actually been purchased. So it was purchased for less than $100,000 below market price, I should say. It was listed at $350,000. So we have to assume it was sold for $250,000. I have no idea how much equity Daybell had in it, how much money John Pryor even got out of it.
What we know about how he handled his finances,
he probably didn't have a lot of equity.
There was not much equity in
Anyways. So the individual who purchased it wishes to remain anonymous. He is a local benefactor, and here is his plan for the property. He intends to create a community space that will honor the victims and facilitate healing. So I've heard things that maybe he's going to take the house down and raise it and kind of make it more of a park community garden sort of a thing. I heard some rumblings about who this individual might be, but it hasn't been publicly disclosed, so I'm not going to say anything other than they really did want to remain anonymous. They were not doing this for the notoriety. They were doing it to heal the community, which that community, after this horrible thing, needs some healing.
I don't know how you could keep it a home.
Exactly. Exactly. So we will continue to follow that.
I think that's a good update, though.
Okay. That's a good update.
That's a good update.
So, okay. Well, now is our time where we talk about our favorite things. But before we get to favorite things, sometimes I like to try fun food things.
Ooh.
So when I was at the grocery store today, have you ever seen these Reese's sticks?
They're good.
I have never tried these Reese's sticks. And so I thought, this will be fun. I'm going to buy this package of Reese's sticks because I've never met a Reese's I don't like. Mm-hmm. And Kristen and
I don't like the ones with the puffs in them. Do you like the ones with the cereal puffs in them?
Oh, you know what? I've actually never tried the ones with the cereal puffs.
Those are the only ones I've run into
that
aren't my favorite. I'll eat them. Like in a pinch, I will eat them.
Because I do like the Reese's cereal. It is seriously one of my favorite cereals.
No, I love the cereal. There's something about it being
in the thing. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought we would, munch on a little Reese's stick here. So have a Reese's stick, and I will have a Reese's stick. Mm-hmm. We are going into Halloween season, which is, love Halloween.
It reminds me of a peanut butter Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which you can't go wrong with.
No, you can't go wrong with.
No, this is good.
Here, if you don't want to eat the whole thing and put it on my desk and put it there.
If I don't want to eat the whole thing?
Well, eat the whole thing while we're sitting here on the air. Oh, there is no doubt.
I'm almost done with my drink.
There is no doubt that the whole thing will get eaten. Okay, so I asked you to bring a favorite thing. Did you bring a favorite thing to share with our listeners tonight?
Okay, I had really good intentions, but I had a crazy afternoon. We're just glad I made it out alive this afternoon.
Okay.
I was going to make you a dessert.
Oh.
I was going to make you a dessert. So I will still make you a dessert sometime. I just could not get it pulled together, but it is peach season.
Oh.
And so I am bringing one of my favorite things.
Mel's Kitchen Cafe.
Cookbook, hands down, one of my favorites.
Ariane absolutely adores that.
She has been feeding my family for almost a decade. I can't tell you how many. I mean, you can see.
She's got her tabs in it,
and these are new ones. These aren't the ones that she's currently.
Okay, so if you had to pick a favorite recipe out of there, or like a go-to one that you would do anytime,
this is it.
The peach one.
This one, well, especially this time of year.
Okay,
this is hands down the best peach dessert I've ever had in my life.
Okay, so tell me about this peach dessert.
It's called Peaches and Cream Sensation Dessert.
Okay,
has graham cracker crust, which right off the bat.
Well.
Right off the
Can you ever go wrong with graham cracker crust?
It has cream cheese and butter, and sugar and powdered sugar and heavy cream.
Well, so far
vanilla and fresh peaches.
There's nothing in there I find objectionable.
No, and so I really feel bad that I couldn't make it for you today.
Okay,
and then you sprinkle a little graham cracker.
over the top here. Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, she's showing you a picture. Oh, that does look delightful.
And if anyone is not following Mel, she is one of the most genuine, down-to-earth. If we want to talk about someone that stands as a great representative of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints,
awesome.
Mel is one of them. So
love it.
Hats off to her. And like I said, she's been feeding my family for a decade.
I don't use a lot of hard cookbooks, but I know Ariane really likes that. And now I know you really like it. I may have to put that on my list for my family to say, if you are looking for a birthday present for mom, give me the cookbook.
Put it on the list. Well, and I made a cookbook for my family, for my kids and my close family with all of our favorites, like food that we make all the time. I actually sent her an email to say, hey, are you okay if I put all these? Because it's pretty much half of your recipes in this cookbook.
Yes.
And she was really sweet. She said, yeah, great.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, well, I also brought a favorite thing. I'm going to pull it up here. This is a favorite laundry product. Let me tell you about this laundry product. It is called Lysol Laundry Sanitizer. It has zero bleach in it, and it is the sports edition. let me tell you how I stumbled across this fantastic product. I take it you've never used this before.
No, but I'm guessing you could put farm instead of sport and it would probably work really well.
Oh my gosh. So I was walking with one of my good friends. I have a good friend that I walk with probably 4 times a week. And I currently in my house right now lives my husband and 2 of my sons. And then one of my son's friends is over here all the time. I always joke. I'm like, I live in a frat house. Anyway, so boys are stinky.
Yes.
My husband is not stinky. He does a very good job of keeping not stinky. But I have a son. He's 20 years old. He is outside most of the day. And he just smells, kind of like your farm kids and your farmers and all of that. And so I was lamenting to this friend of mine. He does his laundry, and the odor that wafts through the laundry, I'm like, his laundry is clean, but it still smells. And she said, oh, honey, you need this Lysol product. And she said, go buy the sport edition. She had teenagers that were heavily into sports. And she said, I would wash their stuff and they would put it on and it would still stink. And she said, you need to buy this. In fact, she actually bought one and brought it over to my house for me. And I have to tell you, I put a cap full of this in anything that's stinky. Like my kitchen towels. My kitchen towels are always like super stinky and smelly. So whenever I wash the towels, I'm throwing that in. Whenever I'm washing garments, because they're right next to my body.
Aren't you the one that did the laundry stripping?
I did do the laundry stripping.
But this...
this is hands down way better.
Yeah, because that's a lot of work.
Laundry stripping is a lot of work. You just throw a cup full of this in your laundry and it's just, it is fantastic. Okay. And so I have to tell you, so my 20-year-old son does his own laundry because, he's an adult. Mommy doesn't do his laundry anymore. But I make him put this in. And when he is washing his laundry, it does not have his body odor. It is fantastic. So, and because it has no bleach, it's not going to harm anything. And I don't know what magical properties are in this. All I have to say is there are magical properties that your clothes do not stink.
Okay. I have bought more things that have been your and Ariane's favorite things than I care to admit. I wish you were getting a kickback from all the stuff that I bought.
It's quite all right. All right. Well, we did run long tonight, and we don't have anything for Patreon tonight because I just wanted to cover all the stories in the main thing. Yeah. So my apologies for, we always try and hit about an hour and we are over an hour. So my apologies for that, listeners, but hope you enjoyed it. We want to thank you for listening tonight. And Kristen, thank you so much
for having me. It's just fun to see you.
Joining me. We've had a blast tonight. So as always, you can reach out if you have any comments. You can reach out at contact@thisweekinmormons.com. And we go through those emails. We take our listener emails very, very seriously. You can find us on the Facebook. I will post our favorite things on the Twin Sisters Instagram. So if you want to see a picture of my little Lysol product and the Mel's Kitchen Cafe cookbook, we'll have that up on the Twin Sisters Instagram. And finally, if you want to throw us some love, become a Patreon subscriber. A couple bucks a month just helps us keep.
And it's fun because you get it early.
You do get it early. You get it early, and then you get the extra content as well. So we appreciate it, and thank you very much.